the Diyanet Center of America in Lanham, Maryland. This is a program about the Maryland Muslim political faith empowerment program, and we have someone I probably was on the committee and helped to arrange or coordinate this event. Can we please get your name and what you do?
Certainly. I'm Nabila Alam Johnson. I currently am affiliated with Concerned Black Men National. We're a nonprofit organization which has a national reach in terms of caring for our youth. I think in terms of just what we do programmatically, I'm in charge of programmatic efforts along youth and prevention services, as well as doing chapter development. We have about 32 chapters nationwide, 2 internationally. So what we really do in terms of the national office is look at best practice programming. We want to make sure that we're in part of lobbying efforts and discussions as it relates to children and efforts for children, as well as developing some new and unique programming, including the President's Boys of Color Initiative, which looks at mentoring efforts and initiatives nationwide. So our reach is not just for working with boys and men across the country. We do work with girls as well. But we want to make sure that we have our own imprint on youth nationally.
When you say boys and men, and you're talking about children, give me some age range and also ethnicity. And you didn't mention religion, which I assume that your program is nonprofit. And so I'm sure that there are probably some things that you have to look at when it comes to bringing in or not allowing certain people. But tell us a little more about the age range and really just who comes into the program.
We find that we are outreaching to youth across the country. We were founded in 1975, so we have 40 years of being able to really mold children in the communities that we work with. I think what our chapter members are finding is that this is an interesting time, not only just in our communities and disenfranchisement and things that are going on in terms of unemployment for families and things like that, but also academic achievement issues for children of color. Programmatically, we work with children from ages 5 on up. We have another family and volunteer division that works with parents. So we do adult basic education, parent self-improvement projects. So we're looking at the whole child, the whole family in terms of their engagement. We want to make sure that we're working with our families, from the time the children are able to enter school up until they graduate and beyond. We offer a number of scholarship opportunities nationally, internships and things of that nature. So we want to make sure that we've never turned anyone away, and color has never been a part of what we do or limiting of what we do. We're in Cape Cod, Massachusetts as one of our chapters. So that's a very diverse group of primarily Caucasian boys are in that area, but they are still are drawn to the programming that we offer and the engagement that we offer in terms of mentorship. And so that's been kind of our mantra, caring for our youth.
It's really fantastic. What I want to ask then is, you're a mother, you're a wife, and you're a mother. And can you think of any time that, since you've been with this program over the past 14 years or almost 14 years, where what you've done in your personal life comes over into your public and professional life?
I certainly can. As a mother of 3 children, I'm proud to know that I'm the first educator. As mothers, we're the first educators for our children. And I think what has been instilled, particularly Islamically, is understanding the fact that we're constantly teaching. Our kids are at our knees, in terms of learning from us. And it's been important for me to be able to pass that type of information on to the families that I'm working with, to the schools and stakeholders, because oftentimes when we're in Southeast or from New York, there are so many different areas where there are a lot of excuses why families aren't engaged, or assumptions, I should say. But I think for the most part, we don't really delve into some of the issues that families are having. I've never found a family member or a mother, whether she had a third grade education or PhD, who doesn't want their child to be phenomenally phenomenal and wonderful and better than we all are. I'm fortunate in terms of just being an educator, and my mother had a high school education but sent me to college. Our grandmothers may have had only a third grade education. So the idea that education was instilled within the village. I could go to my grandmother's house, your mother's house, education was instilled. And so that's the mindset that we at CBM, as well as I think within our own Islamic communities, understand that you can't go to Sister Zarina's house and not know what's important or not know what's at stake. For my kids, it's always been being very visible and vigilant within the schools, within the school systems, within the classrooms. I've been probably a little bit more visible than my children would probably have liked over the years. But they're at Penn State, they're at Virginia Commonwealth, and University of Maryland, Baltimore. So that the legacy, and that's the key for what I try to impart with our families, the legacy of what we're doing, the legacy of our students and children being part of Muslim student associations and being vigilant, even in terms of voting. This is a very, very challenging time for all of us within the Muslim community, and being able to counter some of the Islamophobia and some of the other negativity goes on out there. Our students and children are in social media and engulfed in it, but it comes at them 24 hours a day. There's no separation of that. And so a lot of our discussion, even with some of our parents, is what is your role in terms of being able to temper that information, but also challenge what's going on out there. Sure.
Since you've already segued into politics, what's going on as we're speaking right now in 2016.
Exactly.
How does what you do and what this program today is about, give us the correct name of the program that we are a part of today, and what the mission is, what your goals were or expectations for this today?
I think when we started looking at wanting to do a forum of this nature, of the organization Prince George's Muslim Council, wanted to really attack, if you will, what's going on politically. Oftentimes, and I've worked on a number of campaigns over my lifetime, and to see the proper groupings at the table, if you will, you have to be visible, you have to be engaged, you have to be a stakeholder to put good demands in, or to be able to understand that politics happens from the time you're born to the time you die. Politics is local. And so by not being engaged means you don't have a vote, and that may be okay, but then you can't challenge anything that goes forth. And so I think we're at an interesting time. I think that candidate Ivy spoke of this afternoon in terms of being able to really have a voice in terms of what this current election looks like, and being a part of discussions moving forward. Oftentimes, and it was mentioned earlier, and we've sat in on a number of different meetings and committee sessions and things like that, where myself and maybe a few other people, the only Muslim people in the room, and who speak articulately to the concerns that are going on. And that doesn't mean that you always have to, but being a body that's in the room makes you accountable, makes everyone accountable to you as well.
Say that if you are in the room, and you may be the only African American, the only African American Muslim woman in the room
Who's vocal?
Hello.
Oh, it's stunning for some people. It's stunning. They're quite taken aback.
Just tell us a little bit more about that.
And I guess I can speak even more honestly. honestly, if you allow, that being the only, when I first joined Concerned Black Men National, I mean, my boss knew I was Muslim, but I think he didn't realize how vocal I would be. And so I've often asked him, because he's just retired, to thank him for allowing me to be vocal, because I don't know any other way to be. Coming from New York, you just don't know. But it was important for my ideas to be heard, or even to be challenged. And 9 times out of 10, you're also changing a mindset or changing a stereotypic view that someone else may have had about the Muslim community until they meet you. And it's always, oh, it's those other people. I'm a part of the other people. Hello. But that's been kind of the interesting way of being able to provide dawah, being able to, like-minded people who are interested in education, children, whatever the issue may be, but you can also offer, an ideology or a thought or a question that he's like, wow, I've had this thought about Islam and I just wanted to ask you, or gosh, you're always gorgeous so often and why do you cover? So it's simple things, but like it was shared even in the that was moderated today, that some people just don't know and aren't afraid. So your program is light years ahead in terms of being able to change that mindset.
When you have an opportunity to address different issues, what kind of pushback do you get from the Muslims?
It's interesting, and my daughter often talks about the cultural issues, because for some sisters, you're expected to be very demure, and that there's nothing wrong with that, very demure, and that has never been kind of my it's a broad paintbrush for me in terms of a broad color of who I am. I haven't received pushback. What I have received is almost kind of not really knowing how to categorize me, if if at all. And so oftentimes I find that through my husband's position tends to bring me on board, not knowing what my background is educationally or professionally. And that's neither, and that could be a good or a bad thing. Sometimes it's, wow, if we bring Brother Jamil in, then he can share some things, but he'll say, oh, but my wife does X, Y, and Z. Like, oh, they didn't realize that. So I think it's a learning curve for everyone. And then it's different for different